December Self-Love. Finding Strength and Inner Warmth. Written and published by Empower Me Audiobooks. Welcome to Empower Me Audiobooks. Whether you are here to grow, heal, or simply take a moment for yourself, we are so glad you are here. Let this journey be your reminder that you are strong, worthy, and never alone. Introduction. Coming home to yourself in the darkest season. December has a way of showing the quiet parts of our hearts. It slows the world down in a way that pulls us inward, into reflection, introspection, and often unresolved emotions we did not have time to face earlier in the year. While others are busy decorating, celebrating, and performing holiday joy, many women experience December differently. For some, it is a month of loneliness. For some, it is a month of exhaustion. For some, it is a month of grief. For some, it is a month of spiritual burnout. And for some, it is simply a month where the noise of life finally quiets enough that the inner voice becomes impossible to ignore. In the collective imagination, December is supposed to be warm, festive, glittering. But for many women, it is something else entirely. A season that highlights everything that feels missing, unresolved, or unfinished. You might feel it in the stillness of a cold morning when the sky is gray and quiet. You might feel it when you wake up tired, even after a full night of sleep. You might feel it when you walk past couples holding hands or families shopping together. You might feel it when you scroll through holiday photos online, seeing people who seem joyful, connected, celebrated, even if that is not your current reality. And in those moments, a part of you might whisper, "Why do not I feel it the way others do? What is wrong with me? Why does this season feel heavy instead of happy?" Here is the truth that rarely gets spoken aloud. December is not only a season of joy, it is a season of longing. Not longing for gifts or parties or perfection, but longing for connection, longing for peace, longing for belonging, longing for love from others, yes, but also from yourself. Winter exposes what has been neglected. It amplifies what has been suppressed. It brings softness and vulnerability to the surface. This book is not designed to force holiday cheer. It is not here to tell you to be happy or grateful when you are hurting. It is not here to push productivity, self-improvement, or emotional speed healing. This book is here to help you come home to yourself, gently, courageously, and honestly, in a season that invites deep work on yourself. December, in its quietness, gives us a chance to reset. Not externally, with schedules, diets, resolutions, or vision boards, but internally, where the true transformation happens. Winter is not a time of external flourishing. It is a time of rooting, a time of integration, a time of restoration. Nature does not bloom in December, and neither are you meant to. The trees do not panic when they lose their leaves. They do not question their worth in winter. They do not strive to look alive when they need time to rest. They simply let go, conserve energy, and allow a natural cycle to unfold, trusting that renewal will come in its own time. You are allowed to rest, release what no longer serves you, and turn inward without shame. Healing does not require performing perfection. Self-love in December is not glamorous or curated. No spa days, shopping trips, or inspirational quotes. Choose nourishment on the days you feel numb. Be gentle with yourself when your mind spirals into doubt. Let yourself cry when your heart needs release. Seek warmth when the world feels cold. Learn to hold yourself without collapsing. Offer compassion to yourself even when no one else can. This book will guide you through that process in 8 chapters, each one a step toward deeper self-connection, emotional grounding, and inner warmth. Why December hurts more than other months. People often misunderstand emotional heaviness in winter. They assume it is just holiday blues, seasonal depression, or stress. But there is something more profound at play. Winter strips away distraction. It forces stillness. It slows everything down. It exposes what we have postponed, avoided, or numbed. And when life finally slows enough for you to notice what hurts, it can feel overwhelming. But this is not a flaw or a failure in you. It is a natural phase of emotional integration. Your mind is not breaking, it is unwinding. Your heart is not collapsing, it is processing. Your spirit is not lost, It is recalibrating. And this process requires space, gentleness, and patience. You are not weak for struggling in December. You are simply human, layered, sensitive, deep, and awake. The pressure to perform happiness. December comes with expectations: social, cultural, familial, and emotional. There is pressure to be cheerful, be social, be grateful, be festive, be romantic and giving, even when you are exhausted, lonely, or grieving. There is pressure to show up with perfect energy, perfect mood, perfect tone, even when your heart is aching. And this pressure can be suffocating. It is not that you do not want joy. It is not that you do not want connection. It is not that you do not appreciate the people in your life. You are simply emotionally tired. And tired hearts cannot perform happiness, not authentically. This book will help you release the expectation to be okay and learn how to show up as you are, without apology. The myth of doing everything alone. Modern culture praises independence, especially for women. We are encouraged to be self-sufficient, emotionally unbothered, resilient, without vulnerability, and capable without needing anyone. But self-love is not emotional isolation. Self-love is not convincing yourself that you do not need support. Self-love is not suppressing loneliness to appear strong. Self-love is not shutting down to avoid being hurt. Self-love is learning how to be with yourself without abandoning yourself. It is learning how to speak to yourself gently, learning how to comfort yourself tenderly, learning how to support yourself compassionately, learning how to regulate your nervous system kindly. You do not need to prove you are unbreakable. You need to learn to be soft without falling apart. This December is not a test of emotional independence. It is an invitation to emotional intimacy with yourself. Softness as strength. Many women equate strength with hardness, with emotional armor, stoicism, control, and detachment. But emotional strength is something else entirely. Strength is not suppressing feelings. Strength is not pretending you do not care. Strength is not shutting down to survive. Strength is the ability to feel deeply without drowning in it. Strength is the ability to care without collapsing. Strength is the ability to open without losing yourself. Strength is the ability to soften without becoming fragile. Softness is not weakness. Softness is intelligent, resilient, adaptive, and emotionally mature. This winter, you will learn how to cultivate that kind of softness, the kind that holds you, heals you, and warms you from within. The purpose of this December. This book is not about fixing you, because you are not broken. This book is not about pushing you, because you are tired. This book is not about performing joy, because joy should not be performed. This book is about helping you slow down, exhale, unravel, let go, find comfort, feel grounded, rediscover peace, feel safe inside yourself. This December is not about external transformation, it is about inner nourishment. It is about becoming a woman who is gentle with herself, patient with her emotions, attuned to her needs, rooted in her worth, secure in her boundaries, connected to her inner world. It is about finding warmth in the coldest season, not warmth from others, warmth from within. What you will gain from these pages. As you move through each chapter, you will learn practices, perspectives, and emotional skills that help you. 1. Let go of guilt around rest. 2. Build self-compassion and emotional tenderness. 3. Release old narratives and outdated expectations. 4. Embrace soft, grounded strength. 5. Create rituals that nourish your soul. 6. Support yourself through loneliness. 7. Build self-trust and inner confidence. 8. Open your heart to the future with gentle optimism. This is not motivational hype. It is emotional nourishment. It is psychological grounding. It is spiritual warmth. A different kind of holiday story. While the world is telling a story of glitter, romance, celebration, and perfection, you are going to tell a different story this December. A story of slowness. A story of softness. A story of healing. A story of rest. A story of returning to yourself. You do not need to match anyone else's pace. You do not need to mirror anyone else's joy. You do not need to pretend you are okay when you are rebuilding. You can live December differently, intentionally, gently, honestly, and still feel connected, worthy, and whole. The invitation. So let this month be a sanctuary, not a performance. Let it be a season of self-tending, not self-judgment, a season of inner warmth, not emotional pressure, a season of soft strength, and not forced cheer. Let December be where you learn to give yourself rest without shame, compassion without conditions, boundaries without apology, warmth without justification, and hope without fear. Let this month be where you finally say, I deserve softness, I deserve slowness, I deserve kindness, I deserve warmth, I deserve love, especially my own. Winter is not a punishment, it is an invitation. Chapter 1. The Art of Slowing Down. Allowing rest without guilt. For most women, rest is not a natural state. It is something earned, justified, negotiated, or postponed. We are conditioned to measure our worth by productivity, self-sacrifice, and constant forward motion. Even when we feel exhausted, overwhelmed, or emotionally depleted, there is a voice inside that whispers, you should be doing more. You have not earned a break yet. You are falling behind. You are wasting time. Rest becomes something we feel guilty for wanting, as though the need to slow down reveals weakness rather than a human truth. But the body does not operate on cultural expectations. It operates on ancient rhythms, seasons, biology, and emotional cycles. December is a reminder that slowing down is not laziness. It is wisdom. It is not regression. It is preparation. It is not weakness. It is resilience. Trees conserve energy. Animals retreat. The earth becomes still. Life contracts to recover, not collapse. You are part of that ecosystem, whether you acknowledge it or not. Your body, your nervous system, your mind, and your emotional landscape are influenced by seasonal shifts. When the days grow shorter, your body naturally seeks warmth, quiet, and rest. You do not feel tired because you are failing. You feel tired because your system is asking for what winter provides. Why rest feels scary for so many women. Rest threatens the identity many women have built around constant effort. If your value has been tied to achievement, service, busyness, or emotional caretaking, then slowing down can trigger discomfort. Not because rest is dangerous, but because it removes the armor of performance. Without the armor, you are left with yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your unmet needs, your emotional wounds, your unfulfilled desires. Rest forces honesty, and honesty requires courage. This is why so many women fill their schedules, overextend themselves, and stay in perpetual motion, not because they lack discipline, but because movement distracts from inner truth. Slowing down is not just a physical experience, it is an emotional confrontation, and that confrontation can be frightening. The cultural obsession with productivity. We live in a culture that treats rest as a threat to economic output. Productivity is glorified, exhaustion is normalized, and stillness is pathologized. People brag about burnout like it is a badge of honor. Workaholism is treated as commitment. Sleep deprivation is treated as ambition. Self-sacrifice is treated as virtue. And women, specifically, are expected to maintain multiple roles at once: professional, emotional, domestic, social, often without acknowledgement or support. When you internalize these expectations, rest is no longer neutral. It becomes loaded with shame, fear, and self-judgment. Even in December, a month that historically represented communal rest, celebration, and winter retreat, modern culture demands buying, planning, hosting, traveling, and performing. In the midst of all this noise, the idea of slowing down feels almost rebellious. But rebellion is sometimes necessary for healing. Rest is sometimes an act of revolution. Your body is trying to protect you. Fatigue is not failure, it is feedback. When you feel tired, unmotivated, emotionally drained, or mentally foggy, your body is not punishing you. It is sending signals that something needs attention. Your body is trying to protect you from overstimulation, overexertion, emotional burnout, decision fatigue, chronic stress, nervous system overload. But instead of listening, most women override these signals with caffeine, adrenaline, and self-criticism. They ignore exhaustion until their body forces them to stop. Through illness, emotional breakdowns, anxiety, or shutdown. Rest is not what breaks you, lack of rest is. Your body is not weak. Your body is wise. It speaks clearly, yet must be willing to hear it. Rest as a feminine form of strength. So much of modern society is built around masculine energy structure, productivity, competition, logic, performance. These qualities are not negative, but they are incomplete. Feminine energy is cyclical, intuitive, receptive, nurturing, restorative. It honors seasons. It honors rhythms. It honors the body. Rest is not passive. It is regenerative. It rebuilds the nervous system. It recalibrates hormones. It strengthens the immune system. It restores mental clarity. It stabilizes emotional well-being. Rest is strength, not weakness, because it enables persistence, creativity, and resilience. When you embrace rest, you are not abandoning your goals. You are investing in your capacity to pursue them sustainably. Why guilt shows up when you slow down. Guilt around rest often stems from one of three beliefs. 1. I must earn my worth through work. 2. If I stop, things will fall apart. 3. Other people will judge me if I do less. These beliefs are learned, not innate. Many women grew up in environments where love, approval, or safety were conditional, where rest was called laziness, where achievement was rewarded, and emotional needs were dismissed. Even now, you might feel pressure to maintain appearances, to be productive, to be capable, to be responsible, to be strong, to be accommodating, to be generous, to be up on top of things. Rest threatens that identity, not because rest is bad, but because identity feels fragile. When identity is based on achievement, stillness feels like erasure. But identity can be redefined. Worth can be rooted in being, not doing. Rest is an emotional skill. Rest is not only physical. Learning to rest emotionally is an advanced form of self-regulation. It requires you to let go of control, accept imperfection, release urgency, trust your capacity, say no without apology, tolerate temporary discomfort, detach from people-pleasing, feel your feelings without distraction. Rest is a skill, one you may not have been taught. It is the ability to pause without panicking, the ability to slow down without collapsing, the ability to exist without constantly striving. Emotional rest is the moment when you say to yourself, I do not need to be productive to be valuable. I do not need to earn rest. I deserve it. This is radical self-acceptance. The nervous system needs cycles. Humans are not designed for constant stimulation. Your nervous system needs phases of activation, engagement, rest, and recovery. When you never rest, your body stays stuck in survival mode. Hypervigilance, anxiety, irritability, fatigue, numbness. Rest is what allows the system to reset into safety. Without rest, your mind spirals, your patience disappears, your creativity dries up, your emotions become volatile, your body aches, your sleep suffers. Rest is not indulgence, it is neurology. The fear of being unproductive in December. December is often portrayed as a culmination, a time to achieve everything you did not accomplish during the year. Finish the projects, buy the gifts, host the dinners, make the plans, prepare for the new year. But winter is not a culmination, it is a cocoon. The natural world is not rushing to produce in December, and neither should you. This month was not designed for performance. It was designed for integration. The seeds you plant now will bloom later, but the soil must rest first. Redefining accomplishment. If you measure your worth by what you check off a list, you will never feel satisfied, because the list will always grow. Instead of focusing on what you achieve this month, focus on how you feel. Ask yourself, did I nourish myself today? Did I honor my energy? Did I listen to my body? Did I slow down when I needed to? Did I set boundaries around my time and attention? Did I create moments of warmth, comfort, or peace? Did I show myself compassion, These are accomplishments, not luxuries. Women who learn to rest with intention become emotionally unstoppable. Honoring your body as seasonal wisdom. Your body is not malfunctioning, it is adapting to the season. Shorter daylight hours regulate hormones differently. Colder weather triggers biological conservation. Silence invites introspection. Slowness invites integration. If you feel less motivated, less social, less energized in December, it is not a moral failure, it is biology. You are not designed to bloom year-round. You are designed to cycle. Winter is not the end of growth, it is the incubation of growth. Rest is not stagnation, it is preparation. Permission to stop rushing. There are very few things that actually require urgency. Most of what feels urgent is socially conditioned anxiety. When you slow down, the world does not collapse. The people who love you do not abandon you. Your life does not fall apart. You simply realize that your pace was never sustainable to begin with. Give yourself permission to move slower, walk slower, breathe slower, think slower, work slower, respond slower, feel slower. Slowness is not inefficiency, it is consciousness. Allowing rest without explanation. One of the most empowering acts a woman can practice is resting without apologizing, not because she is fragile, but because she honors her body. Not because she is selfish, but because she refuses to self-abandon. You do not need to justify exhaustion. You do not need to earn recovery. You do not need to explain why you need space. You do not need permission to tend to yourself. You are allowed to rest simply because you are alive. December as a sanctuary. Let this month be a place where you relearn how to exist without pressure. Let it be a season where your nervous system can exhale, where your body can soften, where your mind can quiet, where your heart can heal. Let December be a sanctuary, not a performance. This is not about giving up ambition or goals. You are allowed to want big things for your life, but you cannot build a meaningful life from depletion. Could things grow from rested soil, not scorched earth? This chapter is asking you to release a belief system that has been weighing you down. 1. Constant effort proves worth. 2. Exhaustion equals success. 3. Slowing down means failure. Rest is not quitting. Rest is continuing. Sustainably. The truth is, you have nothing to prove. Not to your family. Not to society. Not to social media. Not to anyone who expects performance. Not even to the voice inside your head that demands perfection. Your value does not fluctuate with productivity. Your worth is not conditional. Your rest is not negotiable. This winter, you are invited to live differently, to slow down, to soften, to listen inward, to release guilt, to honor your body, to reclaim peace. Not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Not because you are failing, but because you are healing. This December, rest is not the absence of progress. Rest is the beginning of transformation. Chapter 2. The tender work of self-compassion. Self-compassion is often spoken about as though it were easy, instinctive, or obvious. But for many women, self-compassion is one of the hardest emotional skills to practice. We have been conditioned to be kind to others, forgiving to others, patient with others, empathetic toward others, while being harsh, dismissive, and judgmental toward ourselves. We apologize for things that are not our fault, feel guilty for having needs, and criticize ourselves for being imperfect. We move through the world carrying expectations that no one else is asked to meet. If you have ever felt like you are too sensitive, too emotional, too slow, too insecure, too tired, too unsure, or too needy, chances are you are not actually too much. You have simply internalized a standard of self-suppression that punishes natural human vulnerability. In many ways, self-compassion is an act of rebellion, a refusal to participate in the harshness you inherited, absorbed, or were taught. The purpose of this chapter is not to convince you to think positively or speak to yourself like a motivational coach. It is to help you build a gentle relationship with yourself that feels safe, honest, and supportive, especially during emotionally heavy seasons like December. Self-compassion begins with an honest acknowledgement of emotional pain. You cannot comfort a feeling you refuse to recognize. You cannot soften a wound you pretend does not exist. You cannot support yourself if you dismiss, minimize, or intellectualize your own suffering. When a child is hurting, adults try to soothe, not to criticize. But when we, as adults, are hurting, our instinct, conditioned through years of internalized pressure, is to judge ourselves for feeling anything at all. We say things like, "Why am I still upset about this? I should be stronger. I should be over it already. What is wrong with me? Why cannot I just be happier?" These questions are disguised as self-reflection, but they are actually self-rejection. They reinforce the belief that pain is shameful, slow healing is failure, and emotional struggle is weakness. Self-compassion begins by rewriting this narrative, not through denial, but through permission. You are allowed to hurt. You are allowed to be affected. You are allowed to feel lost or overwhelmed or lonely. You are allowed to move at the pace your nervous system needs. There is no moral superiority in emotional speed. Healing does not reward the fastest. It supports the most honest. Imagine telling a friend who is going through something painful that she needs to get over it immediately because her feelings are inconvenient. It would sound cruel. But this is often how we speak to ourselves. Self-compassion is not indulgence, it is fairness. It is extending to yourself the basic emotional kindness you would give to almost anyone else. Another barrier to self-compassion is the belief that softness toward oneself leads to stagnation. Many women fear that if they stop pushing themselves, they will become lazy, complacent, or unproductive. They fear that self-forgiveness will erase responsibility, or that self-acceptance means giving up on growth. This misunderstanding is deeply ingrained, because society equates self-worth with performance. But research in psychology shows the opposite. People who practice self-compassion are more likely to 1. Take responsibility for their behavior. 2. Make healthier choices. 3. Repair mistakes rather than avoid them. 4. Pursue goals with persistence instead of shame. 5. Develop resilience rather than perfectionism. Self-compassion does not reduce growth, it supports it. Shame exhausts the nervous system. Harshness drains motivation. Fear paralyzes risk-taking. But kindness opens the capacity for change. Self-compassion is not letting yourself off the hook. It is changing the way you hold the hook. December is a profound opportunity to practice self-compassion because it is a month that often reveals emotional inadequacies we hide the rest of the year. Loneliness feels sharper. Fatigue feels heavier. Self-judgment gets louder. Expectations feel suffocating. You might notice your inner critic surface more aggressively when life slows down. When there is less distraction and more inward time, the mind often returns to unresolved fears, insecurities, or regrets. Without self-compassion, these inner narratives become cruel. You might blame yourself for not feeling happy. You might shame yourself for not being where you thought you would be. You might compare yourself to people who seem joyful, successful, partnered, or fulfilled. You might interpret emotional heaviness as personal inadequacy. But self-compassion reframes this entirely. It allows you to witness your pain without weaponizing it. Instead of asking, "What is wrong with me?" you learn to ask, "What is hurting inside me right now?" Instead of saying, "I need to be stronger," you learn to say, "I need support and tenderness." Instead of believing, "I am failing," you learn to recognize, "I am struggling," and that is part of being human. Self-compassion does not minimize pain. It holds it. Many women struggle with self-compassion because they were never modeled emotional softness. Some were raised in environments where vulnerability was dismissed, mocked, or punished. Some were taught that sensitivity was dramatic. Some learned that mistakes were dangerous. Others learned that their needs were too inconvenient for others to tolerate. If you grew up in such environments, it makes perfect sense that your instinct is to be harsh, vigilant, or critical with yourself. Your inner critic is not random, it is protective. It learned that self-judgment prevented external judgment. It learned that perfection prevented abandonment. It learned that self-silencing prevented conflict. Self-compassion may feel unsafe at first because it is unfamiliar. Softness is not weak, but unfamiliar softness can feel threatening to a system trained for survival. This is why self-compassion must begin with permission. not performance. You cannot force yourself to feel compassion. You can only create space for it. One of the simplest, most powerful practices of self-compassion is talking to yourself the way you would talk to someone you love. When you feel overwhelmed, instead of saying, "You are useless," you might say, "This is hard, and you are doing your best." When you make a mistake, instead of saying, "Of course you ruined it," you might say, "Everyone makes mistakes. This does not define you." When you feel lonely, instead of saying, "Nobody wants you. That is why you are alone," you might say, "Loneliness is a universal human emotion. It does not diminish your worth." Self-compassion is not about pretending you are perfect. It is about remembering that you are human. It is also important to recognize that self-compassion is not self-pity. Self-pity collapses inward and reinforces victimhood. Self-compassion validates pain while supporting resilience. It says, "This hurts, and I am capable of healing." Many women have internalized the belief that their pain is unimportant compared to others. They diminish their suffering because other people have it worse. High perspective can be useful. Comparison is rarely healing. Pain is not a competition. Your suffering does not lose legitimacy because someone else is also suffering. Self-compassion allows your pain to exist without needing to justify it. One of the most profound aspects of self-compassion is learning to soothe yourself emotionally, not through distraction, suppression, or avoidance, but through presence. Your nervous system responds to internal reassurance just as it does to external comfort. You can comfort yourself through breath, through touch, through words, through silence, through slowing down, through acknowledging what hurts. This is not weakness, it is emotional maturity. Self-compassion is also connected to boundaries. Many women believe that kindness means unlimited accommodation, emotional labor, and availability. But self-compassion recognizes limits. It respects capacity. It chooses authenticity over performance. Sometimes, compassion looks like withdrawing from situations that drain you. Sometimes, it looks like saying no without apology. Sometimes, it looks like resting instead of pushing. Sometimes it looks like disappointing others to stay truthful to yourself. Compassion is not always gentle. Sometimes it is firm. For many women, the hardest part of self-compassion is believing they are worthy of it. This belief often requires dismantling internalized narratives about worth, narratives that say you must earn love, prove value, or outperform others to deserve kindness. But worthiness is not something you earn. It is something you remember. You do not need to do more to deserve love. You do not need to be perfect to deserve care. You do not need to achieve anything to deserve peace. You do not need to meet anyone's standards to deserve tenderness. Self-compassion is not a reward, it is a birthright. December offers a unique opportunity to practice self-compassion because it is a month that asks you to feel. The darkness invites introspection. The cold encourages slowness. The stillness creates space for emotional truth. This is a season not for self-judgment, but for self-embrace. In this chapter, you are invited to release the belief that harshness builds strength. Harshness builds fear. Compassion builds resilience. Harshness isolates. Compassion connects. Harshness exhausts. Compassion restores. You are not weak for needing comfort. You are not fragile for needing rest. You are not dramatic for having emotions. You are not selfish for tending to yourself. You are a person, layered, complex, tender, imperfect, evolving. Self-compassion is the practice of saying, "I am allowed to be human, and I will treat myself with kindness through it." This December, you are not asked to prove anything, perform anything, or perfect anything. You are asked to be gentle with yourself in the moments where you would normally be harsh, to soften where you would normally tense, to understand where you would normally criticize, to support where you would normally abandon. You are learning a new language, one that honors your inner life. There is strength in softness. There is courage in vulnerability. There is beauty in tenderness. And there is healing in compassion, especially when it comes from within. Chapter 3. Releasing what you are carrying: shame, expectations, and old pain. There is a weight many women carry inside that no one else sees. a weight built from accumulated experiences, silent disappointments, unmet needs, harsh expectations, old wounds, and years of emotional labor that never received acknowledgement, let alone relief. Some of this weight is conscious, but much of it is stored unconsciously in the nervous system, the body, the habits, and the inner dialogue. December, with its quietness and emotional intensity, often brings this weight to the surface. It is difficult to distract yourself when the world slows down. Things you manage to push aside during the rush of the year become louder. Memories, insecurities, and losses that you did not have time to process suddenly demand attention. You may find yourself thinking about past relationships, unresolved conflicts, childhood pain, or the version of yourself you used to be. You might relive conversations, regret choices, or question your worth. This is not regression, it is emotional digestion. Winter is not a setback, it is an opportunity for release. Releasing what you are carrying begins with acknowledging that you are, in fact, carrying something. Many women move through life believing their stress, anxiety, perfectionism, or emotional numbness is simply who they are, rather than a result of accumulated emotional burden they have never been allowed to unload. You do not become anxious, tense, self-critical, or hypervigilant for no reason. You learned these behaviors because they helped you survive something, an unpredictable environment, an emotionally unavailable parent, a chaotic relationship, a demanding culture, or an identity built on being competent and likable at all times. Letting go of old pain is not about undoing the past. It is about releasing the adaptations that helped you survive but are now exhausting you. Survival patterns are intelligent, but they are not meant to be permanent. They are designed for emergency, not everyday life. One of the most persistent burdens women carry is shame. Shame is not just feeling bad about something you did, it is the belief that there is something wrong with who you are. Shame grows in environments where emotional needs were dismissed, affection was conditional, or vulnerability was punished. It becomes a constant background noise in the psyche, silently dictating thoughts like, I am not enough, I am broken, I am unlovable, I am a failing at life, I should be different than I am. Shame is insidious because it hides behind perfectionism, self-deprecation, overachievement, and people-pleasing. It convinces you that your worth depends on performance, approval, or sacrifice. It tells you that mistakes are catastrophes, needs are inconveniences, and emotions are liabilities. But shame does not protect you, it imprisons you. Releasing shame requires challenging the belief that you must earn the right to feel good about yourself. It requires recognizing that your worth is intrinsic, not conditional. You are not loved because you are perfect. You are loved because you exist. Shame loses power when you stop hiding from it and start seeing it for what it is, a learned response, not a truth. Alongside shame, many women carry the burden of expectations, often impossible ones. Expectations about who they should be, how they should look, how much they should achieve, how they should feel, and how they should navigate life. You may have internalized expectations like, to be valuable, I must always be productive. To be taken seriously, I must never show weakness. To be loved, I must be agreeable and accommodating. To be respected, I must never make mistakes. To be worthy, I must prove myself constantly. These expectations are not neutral, they are exhausting. They create anxiety, burnout, resentment, insecurity, and paralysis. They disconnect you from your inner world because you are constantly performing for an external audience, even when no one is watching. You keep chasing standards that were never designed with your well-being in mind. And when you inevitably fall short, because you are human, you judge yourself instead of questioning the standard. Releasing expectations begins with awareness. Whose rules have you been living by? Whose approval are you chasing? Whose voice is in your head when you criticize yourself? Where did those standards come from? And do they reflect who you are, or who you were taught you must be? Many expectations you carry were inherited, not chosen. They belong to a parent who demanded obedience, a teacher who demanded excellence, a partner who demanded self-sacrifice, or a society that demands performance. You internalized expectations that served others, often at your expense. Letting go of those expectations is not your responsibility. It is self-liberation. You are allowed to define your own standards based on authenticity, not pressure, well-being, not approval, joy, not performance. Alongside shame and expectations, women often carry old emotional pain that has never been processed. Pain from betrayal, abandonment, heartbreak, rejection, loss, failure, or humiliation. Pain from relationships that were chaotic, neglectful, intoxicating, or destabilizing. Pain from seasons of your life where you felt unseen, unsupported, or unprotected. Pain from years of stretching yourself thin emotionally while pretending everything was fine. Unprocessed pain does not disappear, it embeds itself in the nervous system. It becomes hypervigilance, sensitivity, defensiveness, perfectionism, numbness, or distrust. Many women think they are difficult, dramatic, or insecure, when in reality they are living with emotional residue that no one taught them how to release. Letting go of old pain does not mean forgetting it, minimizing it, or pretending it did not matter. It means allowing your body to process the emotional energy that has been frozen inside you. This may involve crying, journaling, speaking honestly, seeking support, or simply sitting with feelings you used to suppress. Emotional release is not weakness, it is a physiological reset. One of the reasons old pain is hard to release is because it often comes with identity, the belief that you are permanently damaged by what happened. But trauma may shape you without defining you. Pain may influence you without owning you. You are not obligated to carry the emotional weight of every experience forever. You are not obligated to treat your past as a life sentence. Another layer of emotional burden comes from self-blame, which is often a defense mechanism designed to create a sense of control. If you convince yourself that everything painful that happened was your fault, you can believe you could have prevented it. But self-blame is a trap, because it keeps you stuck in shame rather than clarity. Releasing self-blame requires compassion and context. You made decisions with the skills, awareness, and circumstances you had at the time. You coped in the ways you knew how. You survived in the ways that were available to you. Growth can happen now, not by punishing yourself, but by understanding yourself. Old pain is also kept alive by unfinished emotional business, the conversation you never had, the apology you never received, the closure you never got, the truth you never knew. Many women stay emotionally entangled with the past because their nervous system is still searching for resolution. But closure is not an event, it is a decision. It is choosing to release the emotional grip even if the narrative is incomplete. You can accept what happened without having all the answers. You can move forward without everything being fair. Letting go is not forgetting someone. It is freeing yourself from emotional debt. The month of December invites this work because it evokes reflection. You might find yourself reviewing the year, evaluating relationships, questioning choices, or confronting disappointments. This month is often portrayed as a celebration, but it is also a reckoning with self, with others, with life. Releasing what you are carrying does not mean pretending the past did not impact you. It means acknowledging the impact and choosing not to live in reaction to it forever. There is a difference between remembering and reliving. One of the most powerful forms of release is grief, not just grieving loss, but grieving unmet expectations, unrealized dreams, and the version of yourself you thought you would be by now. Many women resist grief because they believe it is a sign of weakness or failure. But grief is not evidence that you lost, it is evidence that you cared. Grief honors love, hope, and effort. It honors the depth of your humanity. It honors the parts of your life that mattered. Releasing grief is not about dismissing your past, it is about integrating it. There is also release that comes from forgiveness. Not necessarily of others, but of yourself. Forgiving yourself for what you did not know, for what you tolerated, for what you settled for what you said, for what you avoided, for the ways you abandoned yourself to feel loved, safe, or accepted. Self-forgiveness is the emotional equivalent of exhaling. December offers an emotional environment where release is possible because it encourages slowing down, turning inward, and resting. When your body is not in constant motion, your mind begins to process what has been stored. What rises to the surface is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of readiness. You cannot release what you are still suppressing. You cannot heal what you are too busy to feel. You cannot unload what you refuse to acknowledge you are carrying. But you also do not need to force emotional release. You do not need to schedule healing. You do not need to perform closure. You do not need to purge every feeling at once. Release is not a dramatic event. It is a gradual unburdening. It happens through small moments of honesty, softness, awareness, and self-trust. It happens when you stop holding your breath emotionally. It happens when you stop pretending you are unaffected. It happens when you stop judging yourself for being human. There is strength in letting go, not because it makes you invulnerable, but because it makes you free. Free to rest, free to choose differently, free to define yourself outside of old narratives, free to love yourself without condition, free to move into the future without dragging the past behind you. This chapter invites you to loosen your grip, not on your dreams, but on your burdens. You are not meant to carry shame forever. You are not meant to perform impossible expectations. You are not meant to be weighted down by old pain. You are not meant to punish yourself for surviving. You are meant to release what no longer serves you, not because you are unbothered, but because you are ready for permission, softness, and peace. December is not just a time of endings. It is a time of release, and release creates space for rest, for compassion, for hope, for possibility, and for the woman you are becoming. Letting go is not forgetting the past. It is honoring yourself enough to stop living in it. You have carried enough. You have endured enough. You have survived enough. Now, you are allowed to put things down. Chapter 4, Soft Power, Learning Strength Through Gentleness. Strength has been defined for most of us in terms of force, control, hardness, and endurance. We are taught to push, to power through, to suppress sensitivity, to hide weakness, to keep going even when everything inside us is screaming for rest. We are taught that to survive is to be unbreakable, and to be unbreakable is to be emotionally untouchable. But this definition of strength is both incomplete and costly. It leaves women exhausted, disconnected, numb, rigid, and terrified of their own vulnerability. It traps us in identities where tenderness feels dangerous, emotions feel shameful, and softness feels like a liability. Softness, however, is not the opposite of strength. Softness is strength expressed through emotional intelligence rather than force. It is strength that heals instead of injures. It is strength that adapts rather than resists. Softness is resilience with compassion instead of armor. It is the ability to stay open without collapsing, to feel deeply without drowning, and to respond consciously rather than react impulsively. Soft power is the kind of strength that grows from self-awareness, emotional regulation, humility, empathy, and grounded presence. It does not demand, dominate, or intimidate. It influences through calmness, confidence, and connection. It creates safety rather than fear. It cultivates loyalty rather than compliance. It builds rather than destroys. Soft power is easy to overlook, because it is subtle. It does not shout. It does not prove itself. It does not need external validation. It does not need to be admired to feel real. Soft power is internal, and because it is internal, it cannot be taken away by circumstance, status, or the behavior of others. Many women mistakenly believe that softness makes them weak because they have lived in environments where softness was manipulated, dismissed, or punished. When vulnerability was not met with care, sensitivity began to feel like danger. When emotional needs were ignored, kindness began to feel like self-betrayal. When compassion was exploited, generosity began to flow like naivety. As a result, women often respond by shutting down emotionally, tightening their boundaries to the point of isolation, or performing hardness that does not reflect who they truly are. Hardness becomes survival, not identity, but survival mode is not meant to be permanent. The strength needed to endure is not the same strength needed to thrive. You cannot build a fulfilling life with the same emotional strategies you use to survive pain. Soft power asks something different. that asks you to reclaim parts of yourself you had to abandon to cope. Soft power begins by understanding that you do not need to protect yourself from feelings. You need to learn how to experience them without collapsing. Avoidance is not strength. Avoidance is fear disguised as resilience. Real strength is presence, the ability to stay with yourself when you feel scared, sad, insecure, vulnerable, or uncertain. Soft power is the ability to say, I can feel this without running from it or numbing it. This does not mean drowning in emotions. It means allowing them to move through you instead of storing them in your body indefinitely. Soft power is emotional regulation, not suppression. It is the ability to calm your nervous system through breath, movement, connection, boundaries, and self-talk, rather than dissociation or self-punishment. Soft power is flexibility. Hardness is brittle. It breaks under pressure. Softness can bend without shattering. Flexibility is not weakness. It is intelligence. Life requires adaptability. Relationships require adaptability. Growth requires adaptability. Hardness fixates on control because it fears unpredictability. Softness adapts to unpredictability because it trusts its own capacity to respond. Soft power is also relational strength. It is the ability to form connections that are secure, empathetic, respectful, and emotionally attuned. Hardness isolates. Softness connects. Hardness intimidates. Softness invites. Hardness creates defensiveness. Softness fosters openness. Hardness demands obedience. Softness inspires cooperation. Many women think they need to choose between being respected and being kind. But soft power integrates both. You do not need harshness to command respect. You need boundaries, clarity, and presence. Soft power is grounded confidence, the kind that is not performative. Confidence rooted in softness does not need attention or compliance. It does not need to be louder than others. It does not need dominance to feel safe. It is confident because it trusts itself, not because it controls others. Soft power is deep self-trust. It is the belief that you can handle discomfort, loss, failure, rejection, and uncertainty without abandoning yourself. When you trust yourself, you do not need to control others. When you respect yourself, you do not need to perform for approval. When you honor yourself, you do not need to force boundaries to be heard. Your presence communicates them. Soft power also expresses itself through peace. Not numbness, but inner steadiness. Peace is not passivity. Peace is mastery. Peace is the result of emotional alignment, not disengagement. Peace does not mean ignoring conflict. It means approaching conflict with clarity rather than panic. Hardness resolves conflict through domination or avoidance. Softness resolves conflict through communication and empathy. It asks, what is actually happening here, and how can we address it honestly? Soft power is not afraid of vulnerability because vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is truth. Vulnerability is depth. Vulnerability is intimacy. Vulnerability is courage. Vulnerability is presence without armor. But vulnerability without boundaries is chaos. Soft power pairs vulnerability with discernment. It is openness supported by self-respect. It allows you to share yourself with people who have earned access, not with everyone. Soft power also expresses itself through compassion, not only for others, but for yourself. Compassion does not excuse harmful behavior. Compassion contextualizes it. Compassion says, I can acknowledge pain without turning it into self-hatred. Compassion does not mean allowing mistreatment. It means understanding your experiences without defining your worth by them. Compassion allows you to see that your struggles are part of being human, not evidence of failure. Soft power recognizes that strength without compassion becomes cruelty, and compassion without strength becomes self-abandonment. Soft power integrates the two, strength with empathy, softness with boundaries. Another aspect of soft power is intuition. Intuition is not mystical, it is embodied intelligence. It is information stored in the nervous system that emerges as instinct, sensation, or internal knowing. Hardness shuts intuition down because it fears that softness will create vulnerability. Softness allows intuition to speak because it trusts internal wisdom. When you trust your intuition, you navigate relationships differently. You recognize emotional misalignment earlier. You sense when someone is unsafe. You do not chase what is inconsistent. You do not ignore red flags to preserve fantasy. Soft power allows you to leave situations that harm you without needing permission, explanation, or closure from others. Soft power is also rooted in spiritual strength, not necessarily religious, but existential. It is the belief that life has rhythm, meaning, and cycles. It is the capacity to surrender to what cannot be controlled without collapsing into hopelessness. Hardness believes that I must control everything or everything will fall apart. Softness believes that I can influence my life without controlling every outcome. Soft power holds both action and surrender. It sets goals without desperation. It desires without attachment. It waits without anxiety. It trusts time, process, and intuition. Soft power understands that healing is not linear, that life unfolds in seasons, and that growth often requires rest, reflection, and discomfort, not constant motion. For many women, reclaiming soft power requires unlearning years of conditioning. It requires releasing shame around tenderness. It requires confronting fears of vulnerability. It requires grieving the ways softness was once punished. It requires letting go of identities built around emotional armor. Soft power is not automatic. It is cultivated. It is practiced. It is chosen. It is strengthened gradually through conscious, compassionate action. Soft power emerges when you choose to rest when you need rest, feel when you need to feel, say no, even when it disappoints someone, ask for support without shame, pause instead of forcing, let go instead of gripping, listen to intuition rather than pressure, express emotion without apology, set boundaries without hostility, speak truth without cruelty. Soft power is a form of liberation, from independence, from perfectionism, from emotional armor, from unrealistic standards of toughness. You do not need to harden yourself to survive life. You need to soften your relationship to yourself so that life becomes survivable. Soft power is not an aesthetic, it is an internal state that allows you to be both strong and human at the same time. Soft power is the quiet confidence that says, I can be gentle and powerful. I can be sensitive and resilient. I can be vulnerable and safe. I can feel deeply and still be okay. Soft power allows women to lead differently, love differently, heal differently, and live differently. It makes room for joy, intimacy, creativity, intuition, and rest, not as luxuries, but as essential components of well-being. The goal is not to eliminate strength, but to redefine it. Not to avoid hardness, but to stop worshiping it. Not to erase vulnerability, but to honor it. Not to perform invincibility, but to cultivate authenticity. Soft power is strength with heart. Strength with softness. Strength with humanity. This chapter invites you to release the belief that you need to become harder to survive. You do not need to become numb, detached, aggressive, or emotionless to be powerful. You need to become deeply connected to yourself, your needs, your values, your truth, your body, your intuition, your boundaries. That connection is power. You are not fragile because you feel. You are alive. You are not weak because you soften. You are wise. You are not unsteady because you are open. You are brave. Soft power is not the absence of fear. It is the ability to face life without abandoning yourself. You are capable of that kind of strength. You are capable of being powerful without being harsh. You are capable of being kind without being controlled. You are capable of becoming a woman who is both soft and unshakable, a woman who is rooted, present, open, and brave enough to remain gentle in a world that glorifies hardness. Soft power does not ask you to change who you are, it asks you to come home to yourself. Chapter 5. Cultivating Inner Warmth. Rituals for Comfort, Peace, and Joy. There are winters we endure and winters we experience. Enduring winter means surviving it, pushing through the cold, numbness, and emotional fatigue until the season ends. Experiencing winter means allowing it to shape you, letting its quietness become an invitation, its slowness become a teacher, and its coldness become a catalyst for inner warmth. Inner warmth is not about external comfort, it is about emotional safety. It is a felt sense of tenderness, belonging, peace, and softness inside yourself, regardless of how lonely, chaotic, or uncertain the outer world feels. Inner warmth is the capacity to soothe yourself, regulate yourself, and accompany yourself. It is the ability to generate comfort from within, not because life is gentle, but because you are learning to be gentle with yourself. Many women associate warmth with other people, with romance, community, friendship, or family. While social connection is important, relying exclusively on others for warmth can create emotional dependency or chronic feelings of instability when support is not available. Inner warmth is not meant to replace relational warmth, but to complement it, to ensure that your well-being does not rely solely on who does or does not show up for you. Cultivating inner warmth begins with understanding that it is not a personality trait, but a skill, one that can be built, nurtured, and strengthened through intentional practice. Some people grew up in environments where warmth was modeled and emotional comfort came naturally. Others grew up in environments where warmth was inconsistent, conditional, or absent, leaving them unsure how to generate emotional safety internally. If inner warmth feels foreign to you, that is not a failure. It is a reflection of what was not taught to you. But everything that was not modeled can be learned. Inner warmth often begins with presence, the ability to be with yourself without judgment, distraction, or panic. Presence is not about controlling thoughts or achieving silence. It is about developing a relationship with yourself that is curious rather than critical. It is listening inwardly, not to analyze or criticize, but to understand. Presence says, I am here with myself, even when life feels heavy, confusing, or painful. Winter provides an environment conducive to presence. The stillness, the slower pace, the shorter days, they naturally invite introspection. But presence can also feel uncomfortable because it brings up emotions you have avoided. Inner warmth is what allows you to meet those emotions without harshness. Cultivating inner warmth requires you to shift from judgment to compassion. When sadness arises, warmth says, of course you are sad. This has been hard. When anxiety arises, warmth says, I am here, you do not have to manage this alone. When numbness arises, warmth says, you are protecting yourself. It is okay to feel disconnected right now. This is not indulgence, it is emotional literacy. Warmth is the opposite of emotional neglect. Emotional neglect communicates, your feelings are irrelevant. Inner warmth communicates, your feelings matter, and I am willing to meet them. Beyond presence and compassion, inner warmth is also cultivated through sensory grounding. The body is a powerful gateway to emotional regulation. You can influence your emotional state through comfort in physical form. This includes soft blankets, warm lighting, gentle self-touch, soothing scents, comforting food, calming music, safe physical spaces, warm drinks, cozy environments. These are not trivial luxuries. They are nervous system cues that say, you are safe. When the body feels safe, the mind can soften. When the mind softens, emotions become more manageable. Sensory warmth restores a sense of home in the body, a place where you can land. Many women deny themselves sensory comfort because they believe it is selfish, unnecessary, or indulgent. But emotional regulation is not indulgence. It is maintenance. You do not need to earn comfort. You need comfort to function. Another aspect of cultivating inner warmth is creating rituals, small, consistent practices that anchor you, nurture you, and provide meaning. Rituals do not need to be elaborate, and they are not routines meant for efficiency. Rituals are moments of intentional connection with yourself or the world. A ritual can be as simple as lighting a candle before you journal, taking a slow walk each morning, writing one sentence of gratitude before bed, stretching your body in silence, brewing tea without rushing, reading inspiring words, taking a long bath, listening to music with your eyes closed. What makes something a ritual is not the act itself, it is the intention. Rituals say, this moment matters, and I matter in it. Rituals create emotional continuity. a rhythm that supports you through unpredictable seasons. They give your nervous system something familiar to return to, even when life feels unpredictable or overwhelming. Inner warmth also emerges through creativity. Creativity is not limited to artistic talent. It is any act of expression that lets the inner world move outward. Creativity can painting, writing, singing, cooking, crafting, photography, gardening, decorating, dance, and self-expression through style. Creativity is not about skill or results. It is about connection. It is giving the inner experience a voice. Creativity transforms emotional energy, not by suppressing it, but by giving it form. Rituals and creativity both cultivate warmth because they give your inner life priority. They affirm that your emotional world is worth tending to. They counter the belief that productivity is more important than presence. Inner warmth is also shaped by narrative. The thoughts, meanings, and beliefs you hold about yourself, your life, and your experiences. The inner voice influences emotional climate as much as sensory or behavioral practices. If your inner voice is harsh, punitive, anxious, or catastrophizing, warmth will be difficult to access. Cultivating inner warmth includes shifting your narrative from fear to faith, from harshness to compassion, from pressure to acceptance. This does not mean ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It means choosing interpretations that soothe rather than harm. Instead of, "I should be stronger," you might say, "I am doing my best in a difficult season." Instead of, "I am falling behind," you might say, "My pace is valid. Healing is not linear." Instead of, "I am alone," you might say, "I am learning how to be with myself." Narrative warmth is not toxic positivity. It is emotional accuracy without cruelty. Inner warmth also emerges through boundaries. Boundaries are not cold or harsh. They are compassionate. Boundaries are not walls. They are gates, allowing in what nurtures and protecting you from what harms. Boundaries often feel selfish to women who were conditioned to prioritize others. But inner warmth cannot exist without boundaries because warmth requires safety. You cannot create emotional comfort in environments where you feel drained, dismissed, or disrespected. Setting boundaries is not an act of aggression. It is an act of self-protection rooted in love. It says, "I will not sacrifice my well-being to avoid disappointing others." It says, "My time, energy, and emotional capacity matter." Inner warmth is also supported by connection, not excessive socializing, but intentional, nourishing relationships. Loneliness does not always need more people. It needs meaningful connection. It needs being seen, heard, understood, and accepted. It needs reciprocal emotional presence. Inner warmth grows when you spend time with people who feel safe, authentic, and supportive, even if your circle is small. One genuine connection is more emotionally sustaining than 20 superficial ones. At the same time, inner warmth includes being selective about who has access to you. Not because you are superior, but because you are responsible for the climate of your inner world. You cannot cultivate warmth if you surround yourself with coldness. Winter can amplify loneliness because it highlights what feels missing. But winter can also deepen connection because stillness creates intimacy, not just with others, but with yourself. Connection does not begin externally, it begins internally, with your willingness to know yourself without judgment. Inner warmth is also related to joy, not performative joy, but authentic, embodied joy. Joy is not always loud or dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet, simple, and slow. Joy can be a moment of laughter, the softness of morning light, or the relief of being understood. Joy is not a destination you arrive at after fixing yourself. It is a byproduct of presence, acceptance, and connection. Joy cannot be forced, but it can be welcomed. Cultivating moments of joy teaches your nervous system that life contains pleasure, not just pressure. It gives your body evidence that comfort is possible. Inner warmth also emerges from self-trust, the belief that you can take care of your needs, soothe your emotions, and navigate uncertainty. Self-trust does not require certainty. It requires presence. It is the willingness to accompany yourself instead of abandoning yourself. Self-trust is built through consistent acts of self-support. It is built when you listen to your needs, set boundaries, ask for help, rest without guilt, express emotion, and follow your intuition. Inner warmth is not a static state. It is a living practice. It is a daily commitment to treat yourself with tenderness. It is a daily decision to slow down enough to feel. It is a daily devotion to the inner life. Winter invites inner warmth because the external world quiets, and in that quiet, the inner world becomes audible. Without distraction, you become aware of what hurts, what you crave, what you miss, and what you are ready to release. Inner warmth is what allows you to meet those realizations gently. Cultivating inner warmth is not about becoming happy all the time. It is about becoming kind to yourself all the time. It is not about eliminating discomfort. It is about soothing discomfort. It is not about avoiding loneliness. It is about accompanying yourself through loneliness. You are not supposed to move through winter without feeling its effects. You are supposed to adapt to winter with care, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Cultivating inner warmth asks you to become an active participant in your own comfort. It asks you to prioritize rituals, routines, environments, relationships, and narratives that nourish you, not drain you. It asks you to treat yourself as someone worthy of tenderness, not as someone who must constantly prove her value. You are allowed to create warmth without needing others to provide it. You are allowed to rest without justification. You are allowed to find pleasure in small things. You are allowed to have needs. You are allowed to soften. You are allowed to heal. Inner warmth is not a destination. It is a practice, a relationship, and a way of being. It grows when you show up for yourself consistently, compassionately, and intentionally. Winter does not ask you to be strong. Winter asks you to be warm. It asks you to nurture yourself in the dark, to listen in the quiet, to feel rather than avoid. Inner warmth is not weakness. It is wisdom. It is the evolution from survival to presence, from numbness to connection, from endurance to nourishment. You do not need to earn warmth. You need to allow it. And when you allow it, your life becomes softer, your nervous system becomes calmer, your relationships become deeper, and your heart becomes more resilient. Inner warmth is not a luxury. It is a foundation, and it lives inside of you, waiting for permission to grow. Chapter 6. Loving yourself through loneliness. Loneliness is one of the most misunderstood human experiences. People talk about it as though it is simply the absence of company, or the lack of social activity, or the result of being physically alone. But loneliness is far more complex than the number of people around you. It is a psychological and emotional state, a hunger for resonance, attunement, connection, and understanding. You can be surrounded by people and feel lonely. You can be in a relationship and feel lonely. You can be successful and feel lonely. You can have friendships and still feel lonely. Loneliness is not a reflection of your social life. It is a reflection of your emotional life. It is the experience of not being met, not being understood, not being mirrored, not being held. It is the ache of unshared inner worlds, unspoken truths, unexpressed needs, and unseen parts of yourself. Many women carry loneliness quietly, believing it is a personal failure. They assume loneliness means they are unlovable, undesirable, or socially inadequate. They wonder if something is wrong with them because connection feels elusive, inconsistent, or unsatisfying. They compare themselves to others who seem effortlessly bonded to family, partners, and communities. They blame themselves for feeling left out, forgotten, or disconnected. But loneliness is not evidence of deficiency. It is evidence of longing. It is the longing for intimacy that is mutual, safe, emotionally nourishing, and soulfully aligned. It is the longing to be known, not just accompanied. It is the longing to be seen, not just looked at. It is the longing to be valued, not just tolerated. Loneliness is not a flaw. It is a sign of depth. It reveals that you are not satisfied with transactional relationships or superficial companionship. It reveals that you want connection that feels meaningful, not obligatory. It reveals that your emotional nature is sensitive, intuitive, and relational. Loneliness does not mean you are unworthy. It means you are wired for love, belonging, and resonance. Many women feel shame around loneliness because society stigmatizes emotional need. We admire independence, self-sufficiency, and stoicism. We praise women who are unbothered, unneedy, and emotionally detached. But emotional detachment is not strength. It is a protective armor. It is a response to environments where vulnerability is not safe. Loving yourself through loneliness requires you to release the belief that needing connection makes you weak. The need for emotional companionship is not weakness, it is biology. Humans are social mammals. Our nervous systems regulate through connection. Our brains are wired for attachment. We are not designed for isolation, emotionally or psychologically. But while loneliness is natural, it can also be painful, especially during seasons like December. Winter has a way of magnifying loneliness. The dark nights, the cold air, the quiet streets, the holiday imagery, all of it becomes a backdrop for self-reflection, comparison, and longing. You might see others gathering with family, celebrating with partners, or spending time with close-knit communities, and wonder why your life feels different. You might feel alone in your apartment, even if the room is lit and warm. You might feel alone walking through stores decorated for the holidays. You might feel alone scrolling through endless photos of smiling faces, happy couples, and festive gatherings. You might feel alone even when people are near you, because emotional connection is rare. This loneliness, especially during a culturally glorified season, can feel heavy, disorienting, and heartbreaking. But loneliness does not mean you are unloved. It means you are emotionally awake. It takes courage to admit loneliness without turning it into self-criticism. It takes strength to say, I am lonely, without attaching shame to that truth. And it takes emotional maturity to understand that loneliness is a state to be tended to, not a flaw to be fixed. Loving yourself through loneliness begins with validation. You are allowed to feel lonely. You do not need to deny it, minimize it, or ignore it. You do not need to force optimism or pretend that everything is fine. Your loneliness is real, and it deserves attention. Many women immediately respond to loneliness by trying to escape it. They fill their schedule with distractions. They cling to unhealthy relationships. They overshare with strangers. They numb their emotional pain with food, alcohol, work, or screen time. They run from loneliness as though it is a threat. But loneliness is not an enemy. It is information. Loneliness tells you that your emotional needs are active. It tells you that you crave connection, intimacy, belonging, expression. It tells you that parts of you want to be seen, heard, valued, and held. Running from loneliness prevents you from understanding it, and it prevents you from building a relationship with yourself that can hold you through it. Loving yourself through loneliness means learning to be with yourself without collapsing into despair or self-judgment. It means developing the capacity to soothe loneliness, not suppress it. It means holding your emotions with tenderness rather than fear. One powerful way to love yourself through loneliness is to shift your internal language. When loneliness arises, instead of thinking, I am pathetic, I am undesirable, no one wants me, I am alone forever, you can say, this feeling is valid. This moment is temporary. My desire for connection matters. I am learning how to be with myself. I am allowed to feel this without shame. Language does not eliminate loneliness, but it softens its impact. It makes loneliness manageable, rather than catastrophic. Another aspect of loving yourself through loneliness is learning to sit with discomfort without abandoning yourself. Many women abandon themselves emotionally when they experience distress. They dissociate, shut down, or detach from their bodies. But loneliness is less frightening when you stay with yourself. You can soothe loneliness through physical grounding, soft blankets, warm baths, gentle touch, calming sounds. You can soothe loneliness through movement, stretching, dancing, walking. You can soothe loneliness through creativity, writing, painting, cooking. You can soothe loneliness through presence, breathing slowly, observing sensations, letting emotions rise and fall. These practices do not magically erase loneliness, but they remind you that you are capable of holding yourself. Loving yourself through loneliness also involves seeking connection thoughtfully, not desperately. You do not need to fill every empty space with another person. Not all connection is nourishing. Some connection deepens loneliness because it lacks reciprocity, depth, or safety. Healthy connection requires discernment. It requires boundaries. It requires choosing relationships that support your emotional well-being, not relationships that distract from loneliness temporarily. There is also a form of loneliness that comes from outgrowing old versions of yourself and not yet knowing who you are becoming. This is transitional loneliness, a loneliness that precedes transformation. It is the emotional gap between former identity and new identity. You might notice distance from people who no longer feel aligned. You might feel disconnected from environments that once defined you. You might feel empty in relationships that used to feel fulfilling. You might feel restless, dissatisfied, or spiritually hungry. This discomfort does not mean something is wrong. It means something is changing. Transitional loneliness is not emptiness. It is space being created for growth. Another kind of loneliness emerges when you stop abandoning yourself. When you stop performing for validation, stop chasing unavailable people, stop shrinking to be likable, stop giving more than you receive. The external world may temporarily feel emptier, but that emptiness is healthy. It is the detox from self-betrayal. Loving yourself through loneliness means trusting that temporary solitude is better than permanent self-abandonment. It means believing that alignment matters more than availability. It means honoring your emotional needs, even if it means being alone for now. Loneliness can also be an invitation to deepen your relationship with yourself, not as a substitute for relationships, but as a foundation for. When you become emotionally intimate with yourself, you stop choosing relationships out of fear. You stop tolerating disrespect. You stop performing for approval. You stop sacrificing your needs for acceptance. You cannot create healthy intimacy with others if you lack intimacy with yourself. Self-intimacy is not self-obsession. It is emotional attunement. It is knowing what you feel, what you need, what you value, what you fear, what you dream of. It is being curious about yourself instead of critical. It is asking, what am I feeling right now? What do I need right now? What would comfort me right now? What is my loneliness trying to tell me? Loneliness becomes less frightening when you approach it with curiosity instead of judgment. Another important aspect of loving yourself through loneliness is recognizing that loneliness does not mean you are unworthy of connection. Loneliness is not a verdict. It is an emotional state that changes based on internal and external conditions. It is possible to be lonely and loved, lonely and deserving, lonely and valuable, lonely and whole. Your worth is not diminished by your loneliness. Loving yourself through loneliness also means releasing comparison, especially during seasons like December, when social and cultural narratives amplify togetherness. Comparison fuels loneliness by convincing you that everyone else is happier, more loved, more connected, and more fulfilled. But social media is not reality. Holiday photos, family gatherings, romantic images, they are curated moments, not comprehensive truths. Behind every smiling photo is an entire emotional landscape you cannot see. Your loneliness is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of honesty. Finally, loving yourself through loneliness requires hope, not blind optimism, but grounded belief that connection is possible. You will not feel lonely forever. Your life will not remain empty. Your heart will not remain unheld. Relationships, friendship, love, they emerge in their time, not on demand. Loneliness is a season, not a sentence. This chapter is an invitation to meet loneliness with compassion rather than shame, curiosity rather than panic, presence rather than avoidance. You do not need to fix loneliness to be worthy of love. You do not need to escape loneliness to be okay. You do not need to punish yourself for having a human need. You are not alone because you are unlovable. You are not alone because you failed. You are not alone because you are behind. You are alone right now because you are between stories, between versions of yourself, between relationships, between seasons of life. This space is not emptiness, it is possibility. Loving yourself through loneliness means honoring the tenderness of this moment. It means accompanying yourself through the ache. It means learning how to hold yourself without disappearing. Loneliness is not the absence of love. It is the longing for it. And longing is a sign that your heart is still alive, still open, still capable of connection. You are not done loving, and you are not done being loved. You are simply learning how to love yourself first. Chapter 7. Becoming your own home. Confidence, boundaries, and self-trust. Home is a word many women associate with other people. A partner, family, community, or a specific place. We are taught to seek belonging externally, to find someone who feels like home, or a group where we feel accepted, or a city where we finally fit. And while external belonging is beautiful and necessary, many women struggle because they never learn how to feel at home within themselves. You can live in a house and not feel at home. You can be in a relationship and not feel at home. You can be surrounded by people and not feel at home. You can be admired and still feel rootless. Home is not the walls around you, it is the relationship you have with yourself. Becoming your own home means becoming a safe place for your mind, your emotions, your desires, and your needs. It means being someone you can rely on, someone you can soothe, someone you can trust. It means building a relationship with yourself that feels stable, steady, nurturing, and honest. For many women, the absence of inner home is not due to lack of effort, but lack of permission. They were never shown how to speak lovingly to themselves, how to honor their needs, how to respect their boundaries, or how to trust their intuition. They were taught to self-sacrifice, not self-support. They learned to accommodate before they learned to belong. To become your own home, you must shift from self-abandonment to self-commitment. You must learn to meet yourself with loyalty rather than betrayal, clarity rather than confusion, presence rather than avoidance. This chapter explores the foundation of that shift through 3 core practices: confidence, boundaries, and self-trust. Confidence is not the absence of insecurity. It is the presence of self-acceptance. It is not feeling fearless. It is feeling fear and not shrinking away from your life. Confidence is not arrogance or performance. It is grounded authenticity. Many women misunderstand confidence because they equate it with perfection, achievement, attractiveness, or social dominance. But true confidence is quieter than that. It is not loud or flashy. It is not needy. It does not demand validation. It is the inner belief that you are allowed to exist exactly as you are, without apology. Confidence says, I am worthy of space, not because I have earned it, but because I am human. Confidence is built through self-respect, through recognizing your value even when others do not see it, affirming your worth even when others question it, and showing up for yourself even when you feel afraid. Confidence grows when you stop performing and start inhabiting yourself. You become confident not by eliminating flaws, but by releasing shame around them. Confidence grows when you embrace your humanness rather than trying to transcend it. Confidence grows when you honor your gifts without minimizing them. Confidence grows when you stop waiting for permission to be who you are. Another essential element of becoming your own home is boundaries. Boundaries are the architecture of emotional safety. They define what is allowed into your inner world and what is not. They protect your energy, your time, your values, and your well-being. Many women struggle to set boundaries because they fear conflict, rejection, or abandonment. They have been conditioned to prioritize the comfort of others over their own emotional health. They have learned that saying no is selfish, that asking for respect is demanding, that expressing needs is burdensome. But boundaries are not barriers, they are expressions of self-worth. Boundaries say, my peace matters. My energy is valuable. My body is not available for misuse. My time has limits. My presence is a privilege, not an obligation. Boundaries are not punishments, they are preferences. They are not ultimatums, they are standards. They are not weapons, they are guides. Boundaries communicate how you want to be treated, and they also communicate how you treat yourself. When you avoid setting boundaries, you send a message to your nervous system that you are not safe with yourself. You reinforce the belief that others come first and your needs are negotiable. You betray yourself to survive relationships that may not actually support you. But every act of self-betrayal erodes trust in yourself. Becoming your own home requires you to honor your limits. It requires you to say no, not out of anger, but out of self-respect. It requires you to let people feel disappointed rather than sacrifice your well-being to avoid discomfort. It requires you to stop rescuing others at the expense of abandoning yourself. Boundaries are not selfish, they are foundational. The third pillar of becoming your own home is self-trust. Self-trust is the belief that you can rely on yourself emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. It is the inner knowing that you will not abandon yourself when things get difficult. It is the confidence that you can navigate uncertainty, disappointment, and complexity without collapsing. Many women lack self-trust because they were taught to distrust themselves. They were told their feelings are irrational, their intuition is inaccurate, their desires are unrealistic, their needs are excessive. They were conditioned to look outward for approval, direction, and truth. Without self-trust, life becomes fragile. You fear making mistakes. You fear choosing wrong. You fear conflict. You fear change. You fear your own emotions. You fear yourself. You cannot feel at home in a self you do not trust. Self-trust grows when you begin listening to your body, your intuition, your inner voice, not as a backup plan, but as primary guidance. Self-trust grows when you take responsibility for your choices, rather than seeking someone to blame or someone to rescue you. Self-trust grows when you keep promises to yourself, not perfection, but consistency. Self-trust also grows when you become emotionally reliable. When sadness arises, you do not shame yourself. When anxiety arises, you do not abandon yourself. When loneliness arises, you do not numb yourself. You stay. You listen. You comfort. You support. You accompany yourself. This is what makes you feel at home inside your body. The knowledge that you will not leave yourself alone in times of emotional distress. You become the safe person you have been searching for. Becoming your own home does not mean becoming invulnerable. It does not mean never needing others. It does not mean shutting down, isolating, or withdrawing. It means being rooted enough within yourself that connection becomes choice, not desperation. When you are your own home, you do not cling. You do not chase. You do not perform for approval. You do not collapse into relationships out of fear of being alone. You approach connection from wholeness, not hunger. You choose people who respect, support, and uplift you, because you respect, support, and uplift yourself. Becoming your own home also transforms the way you experience loneliness. Loneliness becomes less frightening because you no longer equate solitude with abandonment. You understand that you can be physically alone while emotionally supported by yourself. You understand that your worth does not decrease in being alone. You understand that loneliness is a season, not a sentence. Many women fear solitude because they fear themselves. They fear the emotions that arise in silence. They fear the truth that reveals itself in stillness. They fear the parts of themselves that have been neglected, ignored, or rejected. But solitude is where you meet yourself without distraction. It is where you reconnect with forgotten dreams, buried desires, suppressed emotions, and neglected parts of your identity. Solitude becomes sanctuary when you stop running from yourself. Becoming your own home often requires grief for the years you abandoned yourself to be loved, admired, or tolerated. Grief for the times you silenced your truth to keep peace. Grief for the relationships you stayed in because you feared being alone. Grief for the younger versions of you who carried loneliness, shame, or fear without support. Grief is not a sign of failure, it is evidence of awakening. It is evidence that you care about yourself now in ways you were not able to before. Becoming your own home also requires joy, not the forced, performative joy society markets, but authentic joy rooted in presence. Joy that arises from simple pleasures, slow moments, creativity, connection, rest. Joy that softens the nervous system and reminds you that life contains beauty even in winter. Joy is not the opposite of pain, it is the counterbalance. You do not need to eliminate discomfort to experience joy. You need to create space for both. Becoming your own home is a lifelong practice. It is not linear. It is not perfect. You will still feel insecure. You will still feel lonely. You will still need validation. You will still struggle. The difference is that you will accompany yourself through those struggles rather than abandoning yourself. Home is not a destination. It is a relationship. It is a daily practice of self-honoring, self-respecting, and self-supporting. It is a daily decision to treat yourself with tenderness. It is a daily commitment to show up. You become your own home, not by eliminating need, but by meeting need. Not by suppressing emotion, but by soothing emotion. Not by isolating, but by grounding. Not by performing, but by being. You become your own home when you believe you are worthy of consistent care, unwavering support, and unconditional presence from yourself. You do not need to be perfect to deserve belonging. You do not need to be fearless to deserve confidence. You do not need to be emotionally vulnerable to deserve safety. You need to learn how to comfort yourself, trust yourself, and protect yourself. Not because you are alone, but because you are human. You are your longest relationship, your most intimate companion, her first and last home. And when you cultivate a loving, respectful, stable relationship with yourself, every other part of your life becomes easier. You do not need to wait for someone to choose you to feel rooted. You do not need a relationship to feel worthy. You do not need constant company to feel connected. You do not need external validation to feel secure. You can become the woman you rely on. You can become the place you return to. You can become the voice that comforts you. You can become the presence that sustains you. You can become your own home. Chapter 8. A season of becoming. Growth, gratitude, and gentle transformation. There are seasons in life that are defined not by what changes externally, but by what changes internally. Seasons where nothing dramatic happens on the outside, yet everything shifts within you. Your perspective softens. Your priorities rearrange. Your boundaries strengthen. Your heart expands. Your nervous system calms. You are not becoming someone new overnight. You are becoming someone different after time. December is often seen as a season of endings, closure, and evaluation. People review the year, make resolutions, and create plans. But beneath the cultural pressure to perform optimism or reinvention, December also carries a quieter, more intimate invitation to become. Becoming is not the same as fixing. Fixing assumes brokenness. Becoming assumes evolution. Becoming is not force, ambition, or urgency. It is participation in your own unfolding. It is paying attention to who you are becoming rather than obsessing over who you have been. It is trusting that you are allowed to grow slowly, consciously, and authentically. Many women feel pressure to reinvent themselves constantly, to upgrade, improve, transform, or hustle. Growth becomes performance rather than a process. Resolutions become punishment rather than aspiration. Self-development becomes a way to avoid shame rather than to live with purpose. But becoming is not a sprint, it is a season. It is a quieter, more sustainable approach to growth, grounded in self-compassion, not self-criticism. You do not need to fix yourself. You do not need to force change. You need to listen to who you are becoming, emotionally, spiritually, relationally, and creatively. Growth is not loud. Growth is layered. Growth is slow. Growth is subtle. And growth is often invisible until one day it is unmistakable, like noticing the trees have changed, not because you watched every leaf fall, but because time did its work. One of the core aspects of gentle transformation is acceptance, not resignation, but honesty. Acceptance means seeing reality without distortion, without denial, and without shame. Acceptance says, "This is where I am. This is what I feel. This is what I'll need. This is what hurts. This is what matters." Acceptance gives you clarity. And clarity is the foundation for transformation. You cannot change what you are unwilling to acknowledge. You cannot heal what you are unwilling to touch. You cannot become who you are meant to be while pretending to be someone you are not. Acceptance does not mean you stop hoping for more, it means you stop fighting reality. From acceptance comes direction, from direction comes alignment, from alignment comes peace. Growth also requires intention, not pressure. but purpose. Many women assume that intention means rigid goals, strict discipline, and constant productivity. But intention can be gentle. Intention can be spacious. Intention can be supportive rather than demanding. Intention might look like asking yourself each morning, how do I want to show up today? It might look like choosing rest rather than exhaustion, honesty rather than performance, boundaries rather than compliance. It might look like doing one small thing to honor your well-being each day, rather than trying to transform your entire life overnight. Becoming is not about doing more, it is about becoming more yourself. Gratitude is another powerful aspect of transformation, not performative gratitude, but embodied gratitude. Many women misunderstand gratitude as constant positivity or minimizing pain. But embodied gratitude does not deny discomfort, it holds it in context. Embodied gratitude recognizes that life contains pain, joy, uncertainty, and beauty simultaneously. It acknowledges loss without ignoring abundance. It honors grief without erasing delight. It understands that gratitude is not the denial of struggle. It is the remembrance of goodness. Gratitude softens fear. Gratitude soothes anxiety. Gratitude widens perspective. Gratitude regulates the nervous system, cultivating a sense of safety, groundedness, and belonging. Gratitude is not a denial of your humanity, it is a deepening of it. Gratitude in winter is particularly powerful because winter highlights absence of daylight, warmth, community, movement. Gratitude becomes a conscious turning toward what nurtures you, even when life feels sparse. There is also a kind of growth that comes from grief, not because grief is desirable, but because grief reveals love, longing, and humanity. Grief often arises in December, grief for who you were, who you loved, what you lost, what never happened, what you hoped would be different by now. Grief is not a setback, but is part of becoming. Grief clears space. Grief asks you to pause. Grief invites tenderness. Grief pulls you inward so that insight can emerge. You cannot become without letting go. You cannot hold new dreams while still gripping old narratives. You cannot open to possibility while closing yourself around fear. Grief is a doorway, not a dead end. Gentle transformation also involves noticing the small ways you have changed. You might not have had a dramatic breakthrough, but perhaps you react differently to stress, speak more honestly, rest without guilt, apologize less for your needs, cry without shame, or choose relationships that nourish you. These shifts are not small. They are signs of maturation. You do not need to become a different person. You need to become a more integrated version of yourself. Becoming is not a rejection of your past. It is an evolution of it. Everything you have endured, survived, lost, and learned has shaped you. You do not need to diminish your past self to honor your present self. You can appreciate who you were while growing into who you are becoming. Becoming also requires patience, not passive waiting, but compassionate timing. You cannot rush healing. You cannot rush clarity. You cannot rush embodiment. You cannot rush confidence. Growth unfolds in accordance with nervous system capacity, not ambition. If you push yourself too fast, you re-trigger overwhelm. If you shame yourself for being slow, you paralyze progress. If you ignore your internal state and focus only on external goals, you detach from yourself. Transformation is not sustainable when fueled by pressure. Gentle transformation respects seasons, not just the seasons of the year, but the seasons of the body, the mind, the heart, and the spirit. Some seasons are for expansion, some are for retraction, some are for action, some are for integration, some are for opening, some are for waiting, some are for blooming, some are for rest. Winter is a season of incubation, not inactivity. Winter is a season of roots, not flowers. Winter is where the invisible work happens, where the foundation becomes strong enough to support new growth. Growth in winter is not glamorous. It is subtle, patient, and internal. But without it, spring would not bloom. Gentle transformation is also shaped by self-trust, the belief that you can evolve without abandoning yourself. Transformation feels traumatic when it is fueled by self-hatred or self-rejection. But transformation is healing when it is fueled by love. Self-trust allows you to take risks without panic. It allows you to try new things without self-attack. It allows you to feel uncertain without collapsing. It allows you to move forward without needing guarantees. Becoming does not require certainty. It requires courage. Gratitude, acceptance, intention, and self-trust do not eliminate struggle. They support resilience. They give you the emotional foundation to evolve without rigidity. They allow you to grow without turning your life into a performance. Gentle transformation also involves relationships, not just romantic ones, but friendships, family, community, creative partnerships, and spiritual connections. People enter and exit your life as you become, not because you are unworthy, but because alignment changes. As you deepen, your relationships deepen or dissolve. Letting go of relationships that no longer resonate is part of becoming. It is not cruelty. It is honesty. You do not need to cling to every person you once loved. You do not need to carry every relationship forward. You do not need to preserve connections that diminish you. You are allowed to outgrow people. You are allowed to change direction. You are allowed to desire relationships that reflect your values, your growth, and your emotional maturity. Gentle transformation honors both attachment and release. Ultimately, becoming is not about controlling life. It is about participating in it. Not about dominating circumstances, but responding to them with grace. Not about eliminating struggle, but meeting struggle with resilience. Not about erasing emotion, but integrating it. Gentle transformation is not fueled by perfection. It is fueled by authenticity. It asks you to stop performing a life and start living one. It asks you to stop hiding your humanity and start embracing it. It asks you to stop abandoning yourself and start returning home to yourself. You do not need to have everything figured out to be becoming. You do not need to feel confident to be becoming. You do not need to feel whole to be becoming. You are becoming because you are alive, aware, and willing. Winter is not a season of failure. It is a season of formation. The darkness is not emptiness. It is incubation. The stillness is not stagnation. It is integration. The quiet is not loneliness. It is listening. You do not need to rush towards spring. You are allowed to be in winter, to cocoon, to reflect, to soften, to rest. You are allowed to change slowly. You are allowed to grow quietly. You are allowed to become at your own pace. The transformation happening inside you may be invisible to others, but it is not insignificant. One day, you will look back and realize that this season, the slow one, the quiet one, the confusing one, was the turning point. Not because everything changed at once, but because you did. You are not becoming someone different out of shame or pressure. You are becoming someone deeper out of truth. This is a season of becoming, not through force, but through softness. Not through hustle, but through honesty. Not through perfection, but through presence. Not through performance, but through alignment. Growth is not something you achieve. It is something you allow. And you are already becoming in ways you do not fully see yet. Chapter 9. A Woman Reborn, by Winter. There are moments in life when transformation feels obvious, marked by milestones, achievements, endings, beginnings. But most transformation is quiet, unannounced, and subtle. It happens not through dramatic events, but through the slow reclaiming of the self. It happens in ordinary moments, in the way you breathe through discomfort instead of fighting it, in the way you speak to yourself kindly instead of critically, in the way you choose rest instead of self-punishment, in the way you honor your needs instead of dismissing them. This winter has been a spiritual season, not in a religious sense, but in an emotional and existential one. It has invited you to slow down, turn inward, feel deeply, and soften the parts of yourself that hardened through years of surviving. It has asked you to become gentle rather than tough, to become present rather than productive, to become compassionate rather than critical. It has asked you to rest, not because you are weak, but because you are worthy. Winter did not break you. It softened you. Winter did not silence you. It made you listen. Winter did not isolate you. It brought you home to yourself. In this season, you did not transform through force, pressure, or performance. You transformed through presence. You learned that real strength is not rigid or relentless. It is adaptive, intuitive, tender, and trusting. It is the kind of strength that allows you to bend without breaking, feel without drowning, and change without collapsing. You have learned that rest is not a reward. It is a necessity. Rest is not an interruption to your life. It is part of living. Rest is not something you earn after suffering. It is something you deserve simply because you exist. Rest is not laziness. It is nourishment. You have learned to honor your body as rhythms rather than force it into relentless productivity. You have learned to respect your mind as need for stillness. You have learned that slowing down does not remove you from life, it returns you to it. You have learned that compassion is not weakness, it is emotional intelligence. Compassion does not excuse harmful behavior, it contextualizes it. Compassion does not erase boundaries, SPA reports them. Compassion does not deny pain, it holds pain with tenderness rather than rejection. You have learned that being human is not an inconvenience, it is a privilege. You have learned that softness is not fragility, it is resilience. Hardness is brittle, it shatters under pressure. Softness bends, expands, adapts. Softness stabilizes rather than stiffens. Softness grows rather than resists. Softness heals rather than harms. Softness says, I can feel this and still be okay. Softness says, I can rest and still be worthy. Softness says, I can love without losing myself. Softness says, I can trust without controlling. Softness is not collapse. It is conscious surrender. It is the release of unnecessary tension, the dissolution of self-punishment, the end of emotional war. You have learned that inner warmth is not dependent on external circumstances. It is something you can cultivate within yourself, intentionally and lovingly. Inner warmth is emotional safety that comes from self-kindness, presence, ritual, and care. It is the soft glow that arises when you treat yourself as someone worth soothing, comforting, and protecting. Inner warmth is not naive, it is embodied wisdom. You have learned how to regulate your nervous system gently rather than abandon it. You have learned how to comfort yourself rather than shame yourself. You have learned how to accompany yourself rather than criticize yourself. You have learned how to hold yourself emotionally rather than outsource your worth. You have learned that loneliness is not evidence of unworthiness, it is evidence of longing. Loneliness is not a flaw, it is a human experience. Loneliness is not punishment, it is a passage. Loneliness is not a sign you are unloved, it is a sign you are alive. You have learned how to love yourself through loneliness, not by pretending it does not hurt, but by allowing yourself to feel it without shame. You have learned how to offer yourself the companionship you longed for. You have learned how to sit with yourself without abandoning yourself. You have learned how to accompany yourself through emotional winters, not just endure them. You have learned that becoming your own home is not isolation. It is intimacy. It is not detachment. It is loyalty. It is not withdrawal. It is belonging. Becoming your own home means being someone you can trust, someone you can soothe, someone you can rely on. It means building a relationship with yourself that is steady, supportive, and sincere. You have learned that boundaries are not barriers, they are declarations of self-worth. Boundaries say, my well-being matters. My energy is sacred. My time is valuable. Boundaries honor your humanity rather than erasing it. Boundaries support connection rather than sabotage it. Boundaries allow love to be sustainable rather than suffocating. You have learned that confidence is not performance, it is embodiment. It is not arrogance, it is self-acceptance. Confidence is not never feeling insecure. It is not collapsing because of insecurity. Confidence is not pretending to be strong, it is trusting yourself enough to be real. You have learned that transformation does not come from self-rejection, it comes from self-relationship. Becoming is not punishment, it is permission. Growth is not force, it is rhythm. Evolution is not linear, it is cyclical. Winter has taught you that transformation is not about speed, it is about alignment. It is not about intensity, it is about integration. It is not about grand gestures, it is about small, consistent choices that honor your well-being. Transformation is not visible every day, but it is happening every day. It is happening in your nervous system, in your habits, in your thoughts, in your relationships, in your boundaries, in your voice. It is happening not because you are perfect, but because you are present. Winter has been a season of becoming, not all at once, but piece by piece, through rest, compassion, softness, warmth, and self-trust. You have shed layers you no longer need. You have dissolved narratives that no longer serve you. You have released expectations that exhaust you. You have let go of identities rooted in survival rather than authenticity. You have chosen yourself, not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. You are not the woman you were when winter began. You are softer, not weaker. You are slower, not stagnant. You are quieter, not lost. You are gentler, not passive. You are more grounded, not more guarded. You are more yourself. Your transformation did not require force. It required openness. It required the courage to sit with yourself. It required the willingness to feel. It required the strength to rest. It required the humility to soften. It required the trust to listen. You did not hustle your way into healing, you allowed yourself into it. This winter has reborn you, not into someone unrecognizable, but into someone more integrated, more embodied, more aligned. A woman reborn by winter is not frantic, she is present. She is not driven by fear, she is guided by intuition. She is not desperate for validation, she is anchored in self-worth. She is not afraid of rest, she honors it. She is not ashamed of emotion, she welcomes it. She is not ruled by loneliness, she accompanies herself through it. A woman reborn by winter does not need to prove her value. She embodies it. She does not need to perform strength. She lives it. She does not need to chase purpose. She becomes it. She is gentle with herself. She is gentle with others. She is gentle with life. Not because she is fragile, but because she has nothing left to prove. As you step into a new year, you are not entering with resolution, rigidity, or urgency. You are entering with softness, steadiness, and self-trust. You are entering without pressure to reinvent yourself, without expectation to transform instantly, without shame for not having everything figured out. You are entering as a woman who understands that growth is seasonal, healing is cyclical, and becoming is continuous. You are not starting from scratch, you are starting from wisdom. You are not starting from fear, you are starting from trust. You are not starting from scarcity, you are starting from fullness. This is not the year you conquer everything. This is the year you align with yourself. This is not the year you hustle for worth. This is the year you live from worth. This is not the year you punish yourself into perfection. This is the year you love yourself into embodiment. Winter has taught you how to rest, how to soften, how to care, how to listen, how to be present, how to be kind, how to be human. Winter has taught you that you do not need to rush, force, or push. Winter has taught you that you do not need to abandon yourself to be loved. Winter has taught you that you do not need to hide your tenderness to be strong. Winter has taught you how to be with yourself, not against yourself. You are a woman reborn by winter, not defined by pain, but shaped by presence, not hardened by struggle, but softened by wisdom, not controlled by fear, but guided by intuition, not trapped by loneliness, but rooted in self-trust. You are becoming, gently and wholly, everything you were meant to be, not through pressure, but through permission. As winter fades and the year unfolds, you will carry with you a new kind of strength, quiet, steady, emotional, embodied. A strength that does not harm, a strength that does not exhaust, a strength that does not overwhelm, a strength that nourishes, stabilizes, and sustains. You are not in a rush, you are in a rhythm. You are not behind, you are in process. You are not lost, you are becoming. This winter did not end you, it rebirthed you. And because of it, you will walk into the new year not as a woman seeking home, but as a woman who has become her own. You are alive, you are evolving, you are enough, and you are ready, not to sprint, but to step softly, steadily, and sincerely into the next season of your life. Thank you for being here, for choosing this moment, and for choosing yourself. If this audiobook inspired you, helped you grow, or simply made you feel seen, please subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue sharing empowering stories and wisdom made just for you. Until next time.